Okay, picture this. You're a support worker, a singlet. Now, in this context, a singlet just means someone without a dissociative disorder, someone who has a single, continuous stream of consciousness. You're sitting in a room desperately trying to lock down a schedule to get your client to a really crucial physical therapy appointment. You look down at your notes, you sigh, and you say, "But I have you down on Monday. We literally just talked about this." Seems like a totally normal, straightforward interaction, right? Just checking the calendar.
But then your client looks back at you utterly bewildered and goes, "I have no idea what you're talking about. That wasn't on my calendar." Now imagine the immediate frustration here. As the support worker, you're thinking, "Are you kidding me?" The client is totally contradicting what they said yesterday. They're completely denying any memory of making this appointment. So naturally, you start feeling like they're being guarded or difficult, or maybe they're just flat out lying to get out of it, right? You feel manipulated. But on the flip side, the client feels completely overwhelmed and attacked for something they honestly, truly have zero memory of doing. The tension is just through the roof.
So what is actually going on here? Well, the everyday breakdown we just witnessed isn't just someone being difficult. Far from it. Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into what the sources call parallel conversations, and we're going to see if we can finally bridge this massive empathy gap. Here is the incredible dramatic irony of that scenario we just talked about. The support worker wasn't actually talking to one continuous consciousness who was just making up excuses. They were interacting with someone diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder, or DID. As our source material lays out, DID stems from severe, prolonged childhood trauma. And to survive that unimaginable trauma, the mind actually fragments into multiple distinct identity states, which are often called alters. And here's the absolute kicker. This comes with severe dissociative amnesia. No single alter has a continuous memory of the person's life. So when that client said they had no idea about the appointment, they were telling the 100% absolute truth. The specific alter sitting in the chair at that exact moment genuinely was not the one who booked it.
You can probably see how this builds a massive invisible wall between two totally well-meaning people. On one side, you've got the singlet's assumption. Neurotypical folks just inherently assume a shared, continuous timeline. If you don't remember an email or a conversation, people assume you're playing games. They think, "Come on, I told you that, why are you asking again?" But the reality for a DID system is a fragmented consciousness. They literally do not have that continuous existence. This whole crazy misunderstanding happens because the singlet assumes continuity while the system is operating with genuinely missing pieces of information.
And this creates such a profound disconnect. There's actually a documented case from the sources where a medical provider thought their patient was intentionally ignoring a topic they had already discussed. But later, it came to light that the alter who was speaking at that moment had absolutely zero memory of that prior conversation. This is exactly how these parallel conversations happen. The singlet is reacting based on this false assumption of continuity, and the alter is reacting based on a fragmented reality, which means at that exact moment in time, both of them are completely wrong about what's actually happening in the room.
Now, you might be wondering, why don't they just explain what's happening? Well, the source files give us this incredible first-hand insight into exactly why that's so hard. One part of a system explained it like this. What gets really whacked is when one of us doesn't know we are only one case and tries to explain what we remember as being the entire situation. Just think about that for a second. Individual alters act like isolated cogs in a machine. They don't have this overarching bird's-eye view of the whole mind. So if an alter doesn't even realize they're missing time, it's virtually impossible for an outsider to spot what's missing. They literally cannot explain the memory gap to you because they can't even see the gap themselves.
Which brings us to, honestly, the most tragic part of these communication barriers. We know there's severe dissociative amnesia, but what actually happens when an isolated alter hits an impenetrable memory wall right in the middle of a conversation? Well, they're forced to guess. To survive the interaction and mask the fact that there are multiple identities, the brain does something called confabulation. Basically, it scrambles to logically fill in the blanks of that missing time. And the real tragedy? When outsiders, even trained medical professionals, see this happening, they don't see a trauma survivor desperately trying to bridge a gap. Instead, they maliciously document this survival mechanism as calculated deception. They literally weaponize the system's own natural confusion against them.
It all boils down to how this gets translated by the outside world. An outsider sees these symptoms and instantly interprets them as inconsistency, guardedness, or just outright lying. But the actual reality? It's switching between alters. It's profound amnesia. It's structural dissociation. We kind of have to act as impartial translators here because the sources point out this devastating irony. The very symptom that proves a person has DID, which is that inconsistency from switching alters, is the exact same trait that makes outsiders label them as manipulative and unreliable.
A neurological structural survival barrier is being totally falsely rebranded as a character flaw.
There's a quote from the sources that you really have to let sink in. We're not lying, we're just wrong. Wow, it is such a simple but heartbreakingly profound statement. A DID system's attempt to make sense of missing time comes from a lack of continuous consciousness. It's a genuine, desperate attempt to participate in a shared reality with you. It is not an act of malice. They aren't trying to trick their support workers or their doctors or their friends. They are just wrong about the timeline, simply because their brain had to build these impenetrable walls just to keep them alive.
So we really need to connect this back to how we operate in our own daily lives. We have to reframe this narrative. Extreme trauma barriers are not character flaws. The next time you're interacting with someone and they seem frustratingly inconsistent, or it really feels like they're lying to get out of something, maybe take a step back. Recognize that what looks like a frustrating lie is so often just a profound struggle for survival across a huge dissociative divide. The person sitting right across from you might be dealing with internal walls that you and I couldn't even begin to fathom.
And that leaves us with a pretty powerful question. If the very mechanisms designed to help someone survive the unimaginable are exactly what the world punishes them for, well, how much grace do we owe each other in our everyday communication? How often do we just jump straight to assuming malice, when what we really should be doing is offering empathy? If you want to dive deeper into understanding these incredibly complex realities and help us bridge this empathy gap for good, we'd absolutely love for you to be part of the solution. Join us at We Have the Will. Thank you so much for learning with me today, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.